ouverte. Welcome to the third meeting of the House of Commons Special Committee on COVID-19 pandemic, conformément à l'ordre adopté le 20.
Pursuant to the order of reference of Monday, April 20th.
Okay, very good, sorry. Conformément à l'ordre.
Pursuant to the order of reference of Monday, April 20th, the committee is meeting for the purposes of considering ministerial announcements, allowing members to present petitions, and questioning ministers of the Crown, including the Prime Minister, in respect of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I understand there's an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of the 6 members of the Canadian Armed Forces who lost their lives last Wednesday in a helicopter crash off the coast of Greece. We'll take a pause. Okay, we'll return to order. Colleagues, we meet today to continue our discussion about how our country is dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. As we do, Canadians, like everyone around the world, are doing their best to live their lives until things improve. Entre-temps.
Meanwhile, as we look towards the future, I believe it is also important to remember our past and to continue to remember important moments in our shared history.
At this very moment, the Dominion Carillonneur, Dr. Andrea McCready, is performing a special recital to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands by Canadian forces. In May 1945, Canadian forces played a major role in the liberating the Dutch people from Nazi occupation. And now, May 5th is a national holiday in the Netherlands, commemorating the event and the great friendship that now exists between our two countries. Today's meeting is taking place by video conference, and the proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website, so that if you're aware, the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entire committee. I would like to remind, j'aimerais faire un appel.
I would like to remind members that, like in the House or in committee, they should not take photos of their colleagues or film the proceedings today.
In order to facilitate the work of our interpreters and ensure orderly meetings, I would outline the few rules as follow. L'interprétation de la vidéo.
Interpretation in this video conference will work very much like in regular committee meetings and in the House. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. As you may have noticed, when I changed language back and forth from English and French, I had to change the channel during my speech.
And I switched over to English now to speak English. So that's, if you look at the bottom, where you have the little flag that indicates whether it's English or French, and that's how we will be speaking, just so that it makes it easier. That was where we had a little bit of a glitch in the last session. I understand there are no statements by ministers, so we can now proceed to presenting petitions for a period of not exceeding 15 minutes. J'aimerais rappeler aux députés que les pétitions présentées.
I would like to remind members. I'm sorry, I hadn't changed my channel. I would like to remind members that any petition presented during a meeting of the special committee must have already been certified by the clerk of petitions.
In addition, to ensure the petition is considered properly presented, the certificate of the petition and each page of the petition for a petition certified in a previous Parliament should be emailed to the committee no later than 6 p.m. on the day before the committee. I thank all the members for their usual cooperation. Merci. Oops. Merci beaucoup à vous tous.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll proceed to presenting petitions. Our first petition comes from the honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, Mr. Garnett. Mr. Genuis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'm pleased to be presenting two petitions today. The first petition is with respect to Government Bill C7. Petitioners raise concerns that this bill removes safeguards from the current euthanasia regime. It includes removing the mandatory 10-day reflection period and the number of required witnesses that will witness a person's consent. The undersigned urge the House of Commons to immediately discontinue the removal of safeguards for people requesting euthanasia and to put in place additional measures to protect vulnerable people. This would require that bill to be amended or not passed. The second petition is with respect to Senate Public Bill S204. This is on organ harvesting and trafficking. Petitioners call on members of the House and hopefully the Senate as well to support Bill S204, which would make it a criminal offense for a person to go abroad and receive an organ for which there has not been consent. It would also create provisions by which a person can be made inadmissible to Canada if they had been involved in organ harvesting or trafficking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to remind all the members that there are specific headsets that have been mandated to all of us. So if you don't have one, please talk to your IT ambassador and they will get one to you as quickly as possible. The reason for them is not so much for what you hear, but our interpreters are working and there are work conditions that really make it difficult. And part of it is not having the appropriate boom on your headset, which will make it very difficult for them to hear and interpret for our members. Now we go to Beaches, East York, Mr. Erskine Smith.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. I had to learn how to tie my tie all over again. It's been so long. I want to thank Jenna Robar, who's led this petition, E2453, and all the petitioners have noted there are approximately 60 Indigenous languages in Canada, that 2019, last year, was declared by the UN as the Year of Indigenous Languages. They draw attention to Article 13 of UNDRIP and to the TRC's calls to action 13 to 16. And fundamentally, they call upon the Government of Canada to recognize Indigenous languages as being official languages of Canada and to have each language recognized nationally with implementations on regional and provincial levels, acknowledging that many regions have different languages.
Very good. Presenting positions, the Honourable Member for Stormont Dundas South Glengarry, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to present a petition on behalf of one of my constituents, Miles Lynch of St. Andrews West, in my riding. Miles made history as the first Canadian ever to survive 3 double lung transplants. Miles lives with cystic fibrosis and has had 3 lung transplants in the last 5 years, and he's only 22 years old. Miles created a documentary which had a few showings in my riding called 8,000 Miles that documented his journey across Canada. And one of the things Miles has been advocating for is a creation of a national opt-out program for organ donation. And Miles asked me how he could help raise awareness of that issue. And I mentioned to him about an e-petition online and getting people across the country to sign it. So I am proud to have this certified today with 1,318 signatures that's asking the Standing Committee on Health to launch a study into the feasibility of the creation of a national opt-out program. I give kudos to Miles for not only his strength personally, but his advocacy for others in saving lives in our country by advocating for a better and an improved organ donation system. So my kudos goes to Miles, and I'm proud to present that today. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting petitions, the Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby, Mr. Julian.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very pleased to present a certified petition on behalf of several dozen residents of Toronto, Mississauga, and Brampton, Ontario, that add their voices to the thousands upon thousands of Canadians that have signed similar petitions. These petitioners are saying that given that Canadians are living through unprecedented, catastrophic climate events, and at the same time, our society, as you know, is suffering from worsening social economic inequalities. Half of Canadian families only $200 away from insolvency on any given month, and particularly given the pandemic that we are currently experiencing. These petitioners are saying, and they are calling on the Government of Canada to support motion M1, a Made in Canada Green New Deal that I'm presenting in front of the House of Commons, which calls on Canada to take bold and rapid action to tackle the climate emergency and to put in place a shift to a clean and renewable energy economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now we'll go back to presenting petitions. The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni, Mr. Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to table a petition on behalf of constituents from Courtenay Alberni, and they're concerned, obviously, about the fentanyl-related deaths. Over 12,000 Canadians have died over the last 4 years due to fentanyl poison sources. They cite that the current war on drugs, Mr. Speaker, has been costly and grossly ineffective, has resulted in widespread stigma towards addiction and against those who use illicit drugs, and criminalization of particular substances has resulted in the establishment of a drug trade that now traffics dangerous and lethal products such as fentanyl. They're citing that regulating to ensure safe sources with proper measures and bylaws will reduce the criminal element associated with street drugs. Problematic substance abuse use is a health issue and is not resolved through criminalization of personal possession and consumption. They're calling on the Government of Canada to declare the current opioid overdose and fentanyl poisoning crisis a national public health emergency under the Emergencies Act. They're calling for the government to reform current drug policy to decriminalize personal possession, as has been done in Portugal and other countries, and to create with urgency and immediacy a system to provide safe and unadulterated access to substances so that people who use substances experimentally, recreationally, or chronically are not at imminent risk of overdose due to a contaminated source. Thank you.
Presenting petitions, the Honourable Member for Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon, Mr. Viss.
Mr. Chair, I'm presenting a petition today which contains the concerns of Canadians in my riding with the government's approach to firearms legislation and regulations. The petition highlights that the Liberal government's December 5th, 2019 speech from the throne contains numerous inaccuracies about current firearms legislation and regulation, that the term military-style assault rifles is a political phrase undefined in Canadian law, that municipalities are constitutionally unable to enact criminal law to ban handguns in their jurisdictions, that the experts, including chiefs of police, agree that banning firearms and requiring law-abiding gun owners to follow more unnecessary red tape will not increase public safety, that the majority of guns used in violent crimes are smuggled into Canada from the United States, and that the Liberal government continues to target law-abiding firearms owners instead of the gangs, drug traffickers, and illegal gun traffickers responsible for violence in our communities. So the petitioners in Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon are calling on the government to stop targeting law-abiding firearms owners, to cancel all plans to confiscate firearms legally owned by federally licensed RCMP-vetted Canadians, and to focus our limited resources on anti-gang enforcement, on reducing the involvement of at-risk youth in gangs, on mental health, and providing the Canada Border Services agencies with the tools they need to do their job effectively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very good. That's all for petitions today. We'll now proceed to the questioning of ministers. I would like to remind the honourable members that no member shall be recognized for more than 5 minutes at a time, and that members may split their time with one or more members by so indicating to the chair. Ministers responding to the question should do so by simply turning on their mic and speaking. And I want to remind again the honourable members that to use the boom that's on the official headsets so that everything runs smoothly, not only for ourselves, but also for the interpreters. Our first question, notre 10 minutes, je vais changer de langue.
Just a moment, I'm changing language. Our first question, Mr. Paulus.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we're currently smack in the middle of a pandemic, and the government has set everything aside in order to focus solely on the virus and its impacts. The Prime Minister is misleading Canadians. Why is the Prime Minister misleading Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that all Canadians have been affected by what happened in Nova Scotia. Many families have experienced a tragedy, and we promised that we would ban assault-style weapons. That is what we are going to do. We will be working with the parties in order to strengthen arms control, and it's unfortunate that the Conservatives are against that in this country. Mr. Paulus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the contrary, now I understand what the Prime Minister is saying. However, I'd like to know if he thinks that gangs and organized crime are just going to simply hand in their weapons. The Prime Minister. Well, in fact, this is an important step, but it's a first step. There are other things that have to be done in order to restrict guns in our municipalities and in order to strengthen border control as well. So other measures are required, and I'm pleased to hear the member speak about other measures, because together we will have to work together in the House to strengthen arms control. And I hope that the Conservatives will be a positive part of that discussion to keep Canadians safe. Mr. Paulus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say that the Conservative Party has always cared about protecting Canadians against criminals, not against their own citizens. Now, speaking of criminals, before the pandemic, the Prime Minister wanted correctional services to be able to release more easily prisoners. Now, given the pandemic, some things are moving very quickly, but the Minister of Public Safety said that the correctional services were only releasing people who were approaching the end of their sentence. However, we've heard that dangerous prisoners were released. Can the Prime Minister respond? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Chairman, the protection of all Canadians and the health of all Canadians is important to this government, and that's why we have taken additional steps within correctional services in order to make sure that security guards and inmates are protected. We have made some releases. However, these are very specific cases that represent no or extremely little danger to the public. We had to strike the right balance because we need to protect Canadians, and we also need to make sure they are safe. They are all safe. Mr. Paulus. So will the Prime Minister confirm that no dangerous criminals were released too quickly in order to avoid them having to be exposed to the virus within prisons? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. There are rules and principles in place. They are strictly followed in order to ensure that there are no releases of people who pose a threat to society. Mr. Paulus, you have 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Chinese government has not been transparent with the rest of the world in terms of the virus. See, Australia asked for an in-depth investigation. Will Canada be standing beside its Five Eyes allies and call on the Chinese government to be transparent? The Prime Minister. Mr. Chairman, we continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Five Eyes allies, and we have done that. They all did that as well with respect to those who were detained in China. We continue to expect all answers to all our questions be answered, and at the same time, we will be working to make sure that Canadians have all the protective equipment they need to get through this pandemic. The next question will be put by Mr. Blanchet.
Votre micro, Monsieur Blanchet.
Your microphone, Mr. Blanchet.
Voilà.
Thank you. I imagine that I'm on the right channel. My apologies, Mr. Chairman, and my apologies also for not wearing the appropriate headset. I was traveling and I did not have it with me. For several days now, there have been discussions between people of the Bloc Québécois and the government to find a way through collaboration to help seniors in Quebec and Canada. The thrust of our proposals has been to temporarily increase old age security, and I hate the title of that, but I think it should have the word seniors in it. But regardless, we'd like it increased by about $25 a week. That's $100 a month. And we've been having these discussions for a while. It was a proposal that we put forward very early on, and we'd like this to be approved. Now, Parliament stopped sitting in March. Here we are in May, and seniors still have nothing. They themselves are getting impatient, and we spend a good part of our days responding to their concerns. And you know, what I've been thinking is that it's not up to me to answer to seniors, it's up to the Prime Minister. And the question to the Prime Minister is this: what are you doing in terms of a solution that will help seniors' buying power in Quebec and in Canada in the short term? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, seniors need our support and they need access to services throughout this pandemic. We have taken steps for income replacement, for those workers, essential workers who have lost their jobs. But we are also looking at several measures, including measures for seniors. The most vulnerable seniors will be seeing the GST refunded, for example. We've also reduced by 25% the minimum amount that they can withdraw from their RRIFs. And we have also provided $9 million to help the most vulnerable seniors. But I do acknowledge that there is much more that can be done, and that is why we are working with other MPs, including the members of the Bloc Québécois, to respond to those concerns and to find the best ways to help seniors, yes, in the short term, because seniors are facing issues regarding their physical safety, their health due to the pandemic, and also due to their financial security. We will have more to say in the coming days. Mr. Blanchet. The Prime Minister has said over the past few hours that he may require the collaboration of other parties, including the Bloc Québécois, on another issue, and we are open to all discussions. However, when we ask for something, we want to see that same openness on their side. Now, the cost of groceries has increased for everyone, and it has increased for seniors above 65 years old. And their old age security is much less than, for example, what students are getting. It's much less than CERB. And so what I am seeing is seniors in my riding, seniors throughout the country, who want to know why they're not getting anything. They want to know when they'll receive something, and I want to be able to answer their questions. What would the Prime Minister suggest I say? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. We will be making announcements in the coming days to help seniors, especially those who are most vulnerable. We acknowledge that groceries are increasing in cost for everyone, and that's why we need to do more for seniors. We acknowledge that whether it be in the long-term care centres or whether it be other seniors throughout the country, that seniors have been dealing with horrific circumstances. There are isolated seniors. There are seniors who are worried about getting sick without being able to see their grandchildren or their children. And so we must be there for them. They are a generation that fought for us in the Second World War, and now we must fight for them in their homes, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Lens.
Hello, Mr. Speaker, every day I hear from people who are struggling to pay their bills, to keep a roof over their head. And instead of making sure that Canadians get the help that they need, this government has created complicated programs that are still letting people fall through the cracks. If the Prime Minister won't commit to a universal benefit, will he at least commit to removing the restrictive eligibility criteria that is leaving the most vulnerable people behind?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
We knew when this pandemic hit that we needed to help Canadians who were suffering from coast to coast to coast, particularly the most vulnerable. That is why we moved forward rapidly with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit that has helped over 7 million individual Canadians, has made a huge difference. We had to move very quickly to get this money out to people, and that is exactly what we did. We also recognized that there was going to need to be more to do, and that's why since that moment we have continually worked on reaching out to the most vulnerable and supporting them as well.
Mr.
We have
Speaker,
more to do,
the government
that targeted elements, targeted approaches was what was most.
Mr. Speaker, the government,
Ms. Collins.
The government continues to leave people behind. And I spoke to a woman in my riding who, she was homeless last year. She recently found a job and a place to live. But because she didn't make $5,000 last year when the pandemic hit, she doesn't qualify for any benefits. And she doesn't qualify, but she's one of the people who needs it the most. And I'm wondering why the Prime Minister doesn't think she deserves our support.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Our focus throughout this crisis has been on helping the most vulnerable, on targeted measures that will lift Canadians out of poverty, that will support them. Over the past 5 years, we've lifted over 1 million people out of poverty in this country, and we've continued to put the most vulnerable at the heart of everything we're doing. We will continue to. We've put significant investments forward to charitable organizations and foundations that are helping the most vulnerable. At the same time, we will continue to look for more ways to help even more than the 7 million Canadians who've successfully received the CERB. We recognize there's more to do, and we will continue trying to do everything we can in this unprecedented situation.
Ms. Collins.
Mr. Speaker, this government is weirdly committed to eligibility criteria that results in regular people not getting the support that they need, but not so committed to criteria for corporations and billionaires who get our help. So if a company is cheating the public using offshore tax havens to not pay their fair share, they should not be eligible for government bailouts or benefits. Other countries like Poland and Denmark and France have made this commitment, and if they can do it, so can we. The Prime Minister said one thing one day and another the next. So will he commit now that if a company has money in offshore tax havens, that they will not receive public funds?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The measures we put forward are focused on helping workers who lose their jobs, regardless of the companies they work for. It is a shame to hear the NDP, that used to be the party of workers, choosing to judge workers by which multinational they work for. We have moved forward with a wage subsidy that the employers are obliged to pass every single penny on to the workers. That is not help for the companies. That is help for the workers. And that has been our focus all the way through. Ordinary Canadians who need support because they are unable to work because of COVID-19. That has been our priority. That is what Canadians need right now.
Mr. Speaker, I have one last question. I take that as a no.
Fight against tax avoidance and tax evasion. We spent $1 billion to strengthen our.
Mr. Speaker, could I ask my last question?
We will continue to do that.
Point of order, sir.
I'm just going to pause the time for a moment, and I want to remind the honourable members that we're trying to stay within committee rules, which state that the length of a question and the length of an answer should be approximately the same amount of time. And I just want to remind our members of that. I'll just move on to go back to Ms. Collins. She has about 45 seconds left, and hopefully that's about half and half for the question and the answer. Ms. Collins.
Thanks so much, Mr. Speaker. My last question is about housing and homelessness. And my community was facing a crisis long before the pandemic hit. And now people who are living on the streets or in parks don't have the luxury of following public health advice and just staying home. And in Victoria, the province and the municipality have stepped up with solutions to house people, at least for the short term, in local hotels. Will the federal government respond to this immediate crisis and provide the needed investments in long-term stable housing?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister, in 25 seconds or less, please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have moved forward with a historic national housing strategy that puts $40 billion towards housing, working with partners. We have reduced poverty by over 1 million people in this country, but there is more to do. We are reducing homelessness by half with historic investments, and we recognize that during this pandemic, there's even more to do for vulnerable Canadians, and we are partnering with orders of government to make sure that happens.
Question de privilège, Monsieur le Président.
Oui.
Point of privilege or point of order. I'm afraid I don't hear the French interpretation of the Prime Minister. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. I would just like this to be checked because I wasn't able to hear the French interpretation of the Prime Minister when he was speaking English. All right, I'll ask for that to be checked.
Merci.
I'm sorry?
I can try speaking English. I believe I was on the English tab, as is important. Are you hearing the translation now?
That is exactly what the issue was. I just want to point that out to all the members. I'm speaking English right now, and I'm on the English button or English toggle at the bottom of the screen. It does create a bit of disjointed when we're speaking, but it's the way to get around so that we do have interpretation that actually works for everyone. The next question will go to the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Scheer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as this is our first opportunity to meet in any forum, I want to take this opportunity to express my condolences to the family of the brave men and women who lost their lives in the helicopter crash. I know I speak for all parliamentarians when I send our sympathies to their families and loved ones. Mr. Speaker, I want to raise with the Prime Minister an issue that I've raised several times before, and that is a gap in the wage subsidy program. There is a company in my riding that employs thousands of people across the country. Last year, they acquired another company. Both companies separately would qualify for the wage subsidy, but because of rules the government designed, together they do not. So even though collectively they have experienced a massive drop in revenue and would otherwise be eligible, so far they've been unable to get confirmation that they will be able to access the program. And as a result, thousands of jobs are threatened. Will the Prime Minister be able to deliver some good news to the people who work for Brandt Tractor all across the country?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question and his advocacy for community, his community and businesses in his riding. As I told him when we spoke directly, finance officials have been directly in contact with the company in his riding. We recognize there are particular elements in regards to this company that are challenging around application for the wage subsidy, but I know finance officials are working very hard to try and make sure that everyone who needs this subsidy gets it, so that the workers in his community can get the support they need.
Mr. Scheer.
As the Prime Minister knows, there are many companies across the country that fall into this category as well. So we're hoping for some good news, just flagging the time and the date. It is well into May now, and important decisions have to be made in the very short order. There are other aspects of the government's plans to help get people through this crisis that are also causing people to fall through the cracks. The plan to help businesses with rents only applies after a business has lost 70% of their revenue. As provinces start to open up, many companies are going to be faced with the very difficult decision of operating at perhaps 35%, 45% of regular revenues. So they will not be able to access these programs. And in many cases, there's going to be a disincentive to reopen and put people back to work. So will the Prime Minister amend these programs to provide for more flexibility so that more and more Canadians can start to return to work in the weeks ahead?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are in an unprecedented crisis, and we had to move quickly to support workers, to support families across the country. And that's exactly what we did. And we're going to continue to work to try and respond to the reality that people and businesses are facing right across the country. I am eager to be faced with the challenge of how to ease off in these measures so that people can get back to work. We are getting closer to that point, but we are not there yet. We are still focused very much on giving the support to workers and to families that are so necessary in this time of crisis. And as different provinces move forward towards reopening, as we look at different paths forward, I know I will be able to count on all members in this House and indeed Canadians from coast to coast to coast to figure out together what the best way to move forward on keeping us safe and restoring economic activity in the right way will be. And that'll be good to work on together once we get there.
We have about a minute left, maybe 30-second question, a 30-second answer. Mr. Scheer.
Well, Mr. Speaker, no one's disputing the need to move quickly. We are now in May, though, and these programs have been announced for weeks. Canadians have been accessing them, and the problems with them have been flagged for the government for weeks as well. We're also going to see an additional challenge for people who are receiving the emergency response benefit, who may have the option to go back to work and work some hours. They are faced with a hard cap of $1,000 a month before they lose the CERB. Conservatives are proposing a progressive system, a more flexible system where people will be able to earn more without losing their benefits as businesses ramp up, but before normal working hours are restored. So again, will the Prime Minister build in some flexibility to lift the restrictive ceiling on what people can earn before losing the benefits so that it always pays more to work?
I believe the timer is telling all of us that the time was up, but I'll give the Right Honourable Prime Minister about 30 seconds to answer that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our priority was getting support for Canadians right across the country with the CERB, with the wage subsidy, with other measures for students, for seniors, for farmers and agricultural producers. That has been our priority, and that was what we have worked on. I hear the concerns that the Conservative Party has around disincentives. We are going to work with communities and with industry as we look to reopen to make sure that people have opportunities to work and are not penalized for it. But our overarching priority was allowing Canadians to be confident in their ability to stay home and care for their loved ones and buy groceries and pay their rent so we could keep safe during this pandemic. That's exactly what we did.
We'll go on to Ms. Glydu now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, seniors in my riding are struggling, and we've heard the Prime Minister admit that their fixed income, some of them are down, and rent is increasing, and the price of groceries is increasing. He's been saying for weeks that in the coming days something would be announced for seniors, and the fact is they ran on an election promise to increase the old age security. And so which of the days in the coming weeks will they keep their promise to seniors?
The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister may have their mute on. Please check.
Oh, I double clicked. My apologies. So let's start again. Sorry about that. After a lifetime of hard work, of course, Canadians deserve peace of mind when it comes to their retirement security. COVID-19 is definitely having a disproportionate impact on seniors. They have a greater need for services and supports. Happily, their pensions and their benefits are still flowing, unlike so many of those that have lost their jobs, but it's still tough. We've introduced measures
Which day?
Well,
Which
we've introduced measures. In the beginning of April, people received a GST credit supplementary payment that was $400 on average for single seniors and $600 for couples. So that was a significant help.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
And moderate seniors.
We have a point of order coming from Ms. Blaidu.
Yes, I think, Mr. Speaker, that you had reminded us as members that the amount of time for the answer should be similar to the amount of time for the question. So I would just ask the minister to keep to that. And if I could go on to my second question.
We'll go on to the second question, and that is something I want to remind all the honourable members to keep their answers as concise as possible, their answers as well as their questions as concise as possible. Ms. Gladue.
Very good. My riding is on the border of Canada and the U.S., and we see a number of inconsistencies in what is considered essential travel on the U.S. and actually in the interpretation of different CBSA agents. So while we have Americans coming over to buy cheaper prescription medications and to fish, we have individuals in my riding who are trying to get auditors over so that they can be approved for export businesses being declined. We have people who have purchased masts from Canadian producers for their boats that want to come pick them up that are being disallowed, people trying to sell plasma into the U.S. being denied. And so my question for the minister is, when will they clarify the rules to the CBSA agents so that essential travel and trade and commerce, including individual commerce, is understood?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. And Mr. Speaker, we have implemented very rigorous rules that have been well documented and understood by CBSA to stop all non-essential travel. And those measures have been very successful. And we've seen a 99% reduction in international travel coming into Canada. And at the same time, we recognize the importance of maintaining essential supply routes so that goods and services could reach Canada, that we put groceries on our shelf. And we also recognize the important work that essential workers do on both sides of the border. We have provided CBSA with clarification, and their interpretation of those rules has been broadly consistent. And I know that I've heard from a number of our colleagues in caucus with concerns about individual cases. And when we receive those inquiries, we follow up immediately. And I want to assure the member will continue to do that. But the work that we are doing to stop non-essential travel has been important for the health and safety of Canadians, and we're going to continue with that work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My next question has to do with sole proprietor businesses. We see many of them that are not eligible for any of the benefit packages that have been rolled out, EI, CERB, the wage subsidy, etc. And so what is the government going to do to address sole proprietors that are currently falling through the cracks?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you for the question. And first, let me say that we absolutely recognize that there are businesses across the country of all sizes that are finding this to be extremely difficult. The intent of the measures that we've put forward is obviously not only to give individuals a bridge, but to give businesses a bridge. And we are looking at ways that we can ensure that the Canada Emergency Business Account has the broadest possible application. More than 500,000 businesses have already been approved for these loans, representing over $20 billion. And we are looking at ways that we can consider that eligibility process, recognizing that we need to make sure that the program continues to have its desired impact. And we'll have more to say on that. Thank you.
Now, the next question will go to Mr. Arnold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is my first appearance on these, so I hope you can hear me okay.
We can hear you fine. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's good to see everyone's faces. Mr. Speaker, on April 3rd, the Fisheries Minister said opening dates would be determined by harvesters. Since then, the minister overruled the will of harvesters in Prince Edward Island and in the Gulf, who voted to start their seasons on time. But she has allowed harvesters from her own riding to proceed with their seasons as scheduled, giving them access to markets weeks before their competitors. This double standard is severely unfair, and Atlantic harvesters are furious, as was demonstrated during the protests on the Canso Causeway yesterday. When will the minister stop abusing her position and start respecting fish harvesters by opening up lobster fishing areas 23, 24, and 26?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for the question. Mr. Speaker, when making decisions with regards to when seasons open, there are a number of factors that are taken into account. They're complex decisions that take into account what is necessary for processors to be ready for the season, what is necessary for harvesters to be ready for the season, as well as socioeconomic impacts in the area. We're looking at all of those measures when we make these decisions. We do not make them lightly. They are difficult decisions to make, and the decisions we've made around the Gulf, one of the main things we heard from all of those areas was that it was very important for them to start on the same date. That is why the decision was made to start on the 15th of May. We're looking forward to seeing the harvesters out on the water. We're looking forward to the product that they bring in, and we'll continue to do everything we can to support the industry. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Madam Minister. No, the Honourable Minister had another 15 seconds coming to her. I'd like to remind the Honourable members that not to interrupt the person while they're speaking. I'll do my best to try to keep it about level. Maybe what I'll start doing is muting if it's necessary, but interrupting is not going to solve anything. Mr. Arnold, I'll let you continue. You have 3 minutes and 9 seconds left.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. West Coast fishing tourism is a key economic driver in British Columbia, especially in coastal communities. Yet the public fishery gets no respect from this government. Last year, the public fishery was weakened by restrictions based on ideology and not science. A year later, and the fisheries minister refuses to even discuss viable science-based solutions to conserve BC's public fisheries. Does the minister and her government have a will and a plan to support Canada's West Coast fisheries and the communities they sustain?
The Honourable Minister, in 30 seconds, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the fishery is important in every coastal community. I recognize the value that it has on our economy as well as what it means to our coastal communities. That's why we continue to work with those communities and with the fisheries to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to support them. During these extremely difficult times, we're working on measures with the fishery in BC as well as on the Atlantic coast and the eastern Quebec to make sure that we're delivering for them and making sure that all of the issues that they're having are being addressed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Arnold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's seniors, especially those on basic incomes, are being hard hit by the COVID-19 crisis, and as they face new rising costs and scarcity of services. Seniors require adequate caregiver supports, physical safety, and freedom to access their savings to reinforce their financial security. Why has this government failed to recognize the increasing challenges that seniors are facing, and will the government support Canada's senior citizens?
The Honourable Minister, in 30 seconds or less, please.
Thank you. I want to thank my honourable colleague for that question, and I just want to assure him that the government has been focused on seniors during this challenging time. We have provided a GST credit supplement of $400 for single seniors and $600 for couples for low and modest income seniors. We have also ensured that the Canada Emergency Response Benefit is there for seniors that have lost income due to COVID-19. And so we've made them eligible.
We'll go back to Mr. Arnold. Mr. Arnold, you have a minute, hopefully a 30-second question and a 30-second answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On April 23rd, my colleagues and I called on the government to create a program that would match students seeking employment with employers in Canada's essential food supply chain. What has the government done to match students and other Canadians seeking employment with employers in the agriculture and agri-food sectors, including those in the fish and seafood sector?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologize for the delay. Mr. Speaker, we're doing all we can to make sure that we create, using our existing employment programs, opportunities for students to work and get work experience this summer. We know, though, that this is going to be really tough, especially in areas like agriculture. So we have dedicated streams for agriculture sector employers to access students with help from the government, and a number of different initiatives, including Canada Summer Jobs, which I'm really excited to see the results of in the coming days. Thank you.
Now we'll go on to the next question from Ms. Harder.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Rempel, you have a point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With my colleague, Mr. Arnold, it's the second time that I note that you've threatened to cut off a Conservative microphone. I'm just wondering, given that this isn't the House of Commons and it's structured as a committee, what standing order would give you the right to cut off a member of Parliament using a mute button? It seems a little dictatorial, and I was just wondering if you could clarify that based on the standing orders. Thank you.
I don't think I threatened to use a mute, but thank you for bringing that up. I'm trying to keep the rules where the questions and the answers so that there's no interruptions on either side are equal, and that's what we're going to continue. I didn't use the mute. I did it verbally, and I think that's a little more civil way of doing it. I hope you approve. I'm not asking you to comment on that. We'll go over to Ms. Harder. Thank you.
But point of order, Mr. Chair, you actually, to me last week, and Mr. Arnold, you actually did suggest that you were going to use the mute button.
I believe I believe if we take everything out and go over them, bring the papers with the actual verbiage on it where I threatened, and we'll go over it. But I don't think this is the venue to do that. If you want to bring forward a point of order, I'm all in favor of it.
Well, it is. I am bringing forward a point of order.
We'll look into it and get back to you. Thank you. Well, we'll go on to Mrs. Harder. Ms. Harder. Your microphone, are you on mute?
Thank you.
There we go.
Canadians have outrightly expressed outrage and disappointment with the government's initiative to put a gun ban in place. I'm wondering if the minister stands by his comment that these changes would have prevented the tragedy in Nova Scotia.
The Honourable Minister in 15 seconds or less, please.
Yeah, we have heard from health professionals, women's rights organizations, victims groups, and the police and our unions, all very supportive of the government's measure to ban weapons that have no place in a civil society and were designed to kill people.
Ms. Harder.
It's interesting that the minister is misleading Canadians in that comment, because the chief of police, the Association for the Chiefs of Police, have actually said that a gun ban will do nothing of the sort, that it actually will not protect Canadians. So I'd be curious, how many criminals will see guns seized because of the changes that have been implemented by the Liberal government?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, let's actually quote what the police have said. The Ontario Police Association of Chiefs of Police said that they support a prohibition on all military-designed assault rifles. The chief in Toronto said taking military assault rifles off the streets contributes to public safety. And the Canadian Association of Police Chiefs has declared that military assault rifles are produced for the sole purpose of killing people in large numbers, and they urged successive governments to enact a legislation to ban all military assault rifles.
Harder.
So the answer to that question is zero. Absolutely no criminals will see their guns seized based on the Liberals' legislation that's coming forward, because it actually goes after those who legally own and use their firearms. Can the Prime Minister please tell us why he decided to go after law-abiding citizens instead of actually going after criminals who have gotten their firearms in an illegal manner and then use them to commit crimes?
The Honourable Minister in 25 seconds or less, please.
Yes, to be very clear, the Order in Council actually is targeted at weapons that were designed for military use. And in their design and in their intent to kill people, they've actually been used in this country at École Polytechnique, and in Moncton, at a Quebec City mosque, in Fredericton, at Meyerthorpe, and most recently in Nova Scotia. And so these are weapons that really have no place. They are being used and have been used in Canada and around the world to commit mass murder, and in the interest of public safety and at the urging.
Mr. Chair.
Now we'll go on to Ms. Harder.
Thank you. Now, I understand the Prime Minister has his food prepared for him at 24 Sussex Drive, and then it's delivered to him at the cottage where he lives. But contrary to his privileged understanding, food actually originates with farmers. Now, they're in a crisis right now, which means that regular Canadians are actually at risk of not having food available to them at the grocery stores where they purchase theirs. The Canadian Federation of Agriculture requested $2.6 billion to help them out. Today, the government announced 1/10 of this amount. Why doesn't the Prime Minister care about the women and the men who work incredibly hard to keep Canada fed?
The Honourable Minister in 35 seconds or less, please.
Mr. Speaker, let me assure the honourable member that our government cares very, very much about the women and men who work so hard to feed our country. And let me just say, I am grateful to all the farmers like my dad who are out in their fields right now getting ready for seeding. We are lucky as Canadians to be citizens of an agricultural superpower, and our government believes in supporting our farmers and ranchers.
Ms. Harder.
I'm confused as to why the Prime Minister didn't take my question, and bare minimum as to why the Ag Minister doesn't feel it's important enough to be a part of this discussion today when we have ag farmers who produce for Canadians on a daily basis, and they're asking some very serious, some very important questions, and we don't even have a minister who's willing to come to the table and engage in this conversation. That's shameful, Mr. Speaker. Now, several meat packing plants have been forced to shut down because of COVID-19, and as a result, farmers are forced to hold stock longer than expected. Cattle producers in my region are spending more than $60,000 a day, Mr. Speaker, to keep their livestock fed while they wait for processing plants to reopen. The amount that was announced today by the federal government is a drop in the bucket. It's a crumb. So when will this government take this seriously and at least implement a set-aside program for those who are beef producers in Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me just say that I feel there is nothing shameful at all in me, the Deputy Prime Minister, answering questions about agriculture. For me, I'm actually very proud to speak up for Canada's amazing farmers, for our country's amazing ranchers, for our amazing pork producers, our poultry producers. I feel so close to our farmers. I love them, and our government supports them. Today, we announced $252 million of support for our producers. They need it. They deserve it. We're here for them.
Now we'll go on to Mr. Bazan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I too would like to express my sincere condolences to the family and friends of the 6 military heroes who lost their lives at sea last week. I'm sure that all members of the House stand shoulder to shoulder with the families, with the crew of the HMCS Fredericton, and indeed the entire Canadian Armed Forces community during this time of grief. Can the Minister of National Defence give us an update as to the Cyclone helicopter crash off the coast of Greece last week?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The death of the Canadian Armed Forces members is felt by all, and especially the families, and our condolences goes out to them. And our number one priority is to making sure that we look after them, and that's exactly what we are doing. And currently, the investigation is ongoing. Our investigative team is currently on the ground. I actually spoke with the Italian Minister of Defense, and he promised full support for this investigation and any support that's required.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off there if we're going by the rules that were pointed out by the House. Mr. Bazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Minister Sajjan again. I just want to ask the Minister when I'm going to change gears a little bit, and I know that back in early January, that military intelligence through CF Intelligence Command were reporting through the chain of command of the new novel coronavirus in the outbreak in Wuhan. So on what date did he, as Minister of National Defense, be given his first intelligence briefing on the outbreak and the pandemic in China?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been following this crisis from day one. We work with our Five Eyes and intelligence sources, and this has been a whole of government effort right from the beginning. I can assure you that our response to this pandemic has been with all the necessary information. Obviously, I can't discuss the intelligence in this forum, but I can assure you that our response has been well informed with the correct information.
But
Mr. Bazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Minister Sajjan. We know that intelligence was going up the chain of command in national defense. It was reported in the media that early January, the higher hierarchy within Canadian Armed Forces were being made aware of the coronavirus outbreak. So I asked you, Minister, when did you become aware of it, and what did you do with that intelligence?
Mr. Speaker, I get regular briefings on intelligence, and then yes, I was made aware of this in January. As all our intelligence, we work together from a whole of government perspective with all our intelligence agencies. And one thing I can assure you that our response has been well informed with all the correct information that is provided to myself and other members of Cabinet.
Mr. Bazan.
What was that timeline from the time that you were first told, Minister Sajjan, about the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan? What did you do with that intelligence? When did you give it to to the Prime Minister or to Minister Hadju as Minister of Health? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me just say that our government's response to this global pandemic has, of course, been informed by the excellent work of Canadian intelligence agencies throughout. And we have been working on this from very, very early on. On January 2nd, PHAT first spoke with provincial health authorities to alert them to the situation. On January 14th, it convened a meeting of all provincial health authorities. In January, the Prime Minister convened a meeting of the Incident Response Group, and in January, we increased screening at all major airports. All of these actions were informed by the work of our excellent intelligence community and, of course, our work with our Five Eyes, NATO, and NORAD allies.
Okay, I want to come
nous
back.
allons continuer maintenant avec Monsieur Sainte-Marie.
And now,
Oui, je peux y aller, Monsieur le Président?
may I go ahead, Mr. Chair? Yes, thank you. André Leroux, tax specialist, who is an expert in tax havens, stated that $350 billion of Canadian money is in 12 tax havens. Businesses use these tax havens to fund operations and IP matters. The specialist also stated that the government is aware of all the Canadian money that is in tax havens, but that it is not doing anything. With a deficit of $257 billion, something needs to change. If we don't seize the opportunity to change things, well, it's never going to happen. So my question, Mr. Chair, will the government seize this current opportunity to make the use of tax havens illegal for businesses? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Chair, since we arrived in power in 2015, we have been fighting against tax fraudsters, both in Canada and abroad. This has been a priority for our government. We have invested almost $1 billion in this area. I understand my colleague's impatience, Mr. Chair, but he must understand that this type of file is extremely complex. Regarding tax evasion abroad, under our leadership, the agency has carried out twice as many audits over 3 years than under the preceding 10 years under the Conservatives. Currently, the CRA is carrying out more than 50 criminal investigations related to international tax evasion. And this is a real priority for our government, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sainte-Marie. Indeed, I am very impatient because every time I discuss the legal use of tax havens by businesses, the minister doesn't respond to that specific issue. Instead, she talks about the fact that the government is chasing fraudsters. But now I'm talking about the legal use of tax havens. As has been said several times, Denmark and Poland have taken action, even France. Minister of Finance Bruno Le Maire stated that businesses with branches in tax havens couldn't benefit from public assistance. Now, I've heard the Prime Minister say that wage subsidies are going to employees, not the businesses. But let me give you another example. Look at banks. The government is giving banks a great deal of liquidity and is buying many low-quality assets. If we look at the 5 big Toronto banks, these banks have saved billions of dollars per year by using tax havens to shield their profits. And that's unacceptable. That's not payroll. That's money that's being used by management of the banks and not to help workers. So again, I would like to ask whether the government is going to seize this opportunity to make businesses' use of tax havens illegal. The Minister. Our government is taking unprecedented steps in order to support businesses and employees that are affected by COVID-19. This is an extremely solid program, and we will not tolerate abuse of the program. We will ensure that anyone who tries to get around the rules will be exposed to significant consequences. In addition, applicants will have to have someone to be a guarantor to their request, and any request that is ultimately deemed ineligible will have to refund the money and may have to pay sanctions of up to 255% of the amount, and a penalty of up to 5 years imprisonment. The CRA has multiple mechanisms to detect fraudulent requests, Mr. Speaker. As I stated, tax evasion is a priority for our government. Mr. Sainte-Marie, a 30-second question with, I hope, a 30-second answer. Thank you very much. That's a great answer, but it has nothing to do with my question. The Minister of Finance has the power to fix this problem right now. Businesses' current legal but immoral use of tax havens. As we can see under Clause 5906 of the Income Tax Act, a simple change by the Minister of Finance to the regulation under that clause could fix this. We're soon going to have a $257 billion deficit. We need to do what we can to reduce this, including the wealthy businesses that are using these tax havens. Madam Minister, we have made historic investments of $1 billion. And in addition, the government has given the CRA the resources it needs in order to do its work. And we're starting to see results. I have created an expert advisory panel, Mr. Chair, which is giving us recommendations. In addition, we have tightened the rules of the voluntary disclosure program. We have created country-by-country agreements for the exchange of tax information. We are currently auditing 4 jurisdictions a year, Mr. Chair, and we're working closely with the OECD. Next question.
The next question, Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying I'm sharing my time slot with the member for Surrey Newton. Mr. Speaker, in the wake of COVID-19, so many Canadians have been affected in so many ways. Financial loss and other burdens are having a huge impact on families across our country. I am proud of how the Government of Canada has been beside Canadians through every step of this pandemic and has supported Canadians when they needed it most. In Bonavista Beer and Trinity and across our country, our commercial fishery has seen many challenges and impacts. My colleague, the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, Canada, announced last week an investment that will help ensure the resilience of the food system by allowing Canada's fish and seafood processing sector to safely and efficiently process, store, package, and distribute healthy, high-quality products onto the plates of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the fish harvesters in my riding are fearful of what will happen within this industry and their immediate futures. They are facing a reduction in available markets and market prices. They are asking what our government is putting in place to assist in these extremely challenging times. I ask my colleague, when can we expect to hear an answer to our harvesters' request for assistance? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague from Bonavista Beer and Trinity for the question and for keeping us well aware of what's happening in his riding with harvesters and with processors. We know how important the fish and seafood sector is to our rural communities, our coastal communities. It's the backbone and the lifeblood of our communities, and that's why we want to be there to support them. We've already taken steps by making sure that the CERB is now able to be accessed by people who are seasonal workers, as well as making sure that people who have run out of Fisher's EI are also able to qualify for it. We also have made the investment of the $62.5 million to support our processors to make sure that they are able to be ready for the challenges that they're going to face because of COVID-19. But we know that there's more to do. We know that the harvesters need support. We're working with our partners across industry to make sure that we're hearing what their major concerns are. We know that they're going to have some very challenging times this season, and we will have more to say about that and what we will be able to do in the coming days. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next question goes to Mr. Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my riding of Surrey Newton, I'm in close contact with businesses that represent all vantage points on the...
We have a point of order. Mr. Kirk?
Sorry, there seems to be an issue with the audio. I'm unable to hear the Honourable Member.
It is very faint. Mr. Dhaliwal, can you check your audio to make sure everything's working well?
It was.
Oh, there we go. You're fine now. I think what happened is the boom had fallen down and it wasn't being picked up. So there you go. Very good.
Mr. Chairman, in my riding of Surrey Newton, I'm in close contact with businesses that represent all vantage points on the supply chain, from manufacturers to retailers transport companies to warehousing, with provinces and territories moving at different speeds and implementing different protocols for reopening the economy. There is a lot of confusion in my local business community on the timing and logistics of how this will happen. Mr. Chairman, with so many different parts of supply chain operating in different jurisdictions and with each business serving in unique role on the spectrum, how can the federal government serve to best coordinate with the provinces and territories so that the supply chain can be implemented smoothly as we embark on our economic recovery?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question and for his hard work. One of the most important things the federal government can do when it comes to the reopening of the Canadian economy is to work in close collaboration with the premiers of the provinces and territories. And that's why I was so pleased that last week, the Prime Minister, together with all the First Ministers of the country, was able to issue a statement around the principles that will be guiding our entire country as we move towards a restart. This is so important because, as my colleague has pointed out, all of our business, our economic activity happens across the country. It happens across provincial and territorial boundaries. So I would really also like to take this opportunity to thank the First Ministers across the country. They belong to to different parties, but everyone has really been able to put partisanship aside, and we have been able to work together in fighting coronavirus, and we are going to work together in the future to keep on fighting coronavirus and to reopen Canada. Thank you.
The next question goes to Ms. McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to represent my constituents virtually during this challenging period of physical distancing. Mr. Chair, I'd like to start by asking about supports for workers. In Alberta, meatpacking plants are directly responsible for nearly a quarter of all COVID-19 cases in my province. The government and management ignored the pleas of workers and did not put effective safety protocols into place to deal with COVID-19. Now, 2 workers are dead, at least 6 more are in intensive care, and COVID-19 is spreading like wildfire through these communities. There are over 1,400 cases. Yesterday, employees were forced back to work even though their concerns had not been addressed. On March 27th, regarding the CERB, the Minister of Finance said, if workers don't feel comfortable in their work, if they decide to stay home, they can apply for the benefit. Yet the website says differently. Will the minister guarantee that every Canadian receiving CERB, EI, or the CESB will not lose their benefits if they refuse to return to work or accept work that is unsafe due to COVID-19?
The Honourable Minister.
Let me thank the member, first of all, for her really, really important question. I think all of us share a concern for Canada's essential workers who are keeping us safe, putting food on our table, and often working in difficult conditions. When it comes to the Cargill plant, this is an issue that our government has been very closely engaged in. My colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, has spoken with her provincial counterpart and the head of the plant. The decisions about suspending and reopening are taken by local and provincial health authorities. To the question that my colleague asked about workers, it is absolutely the case that no Canadian should feel they need to work in an environment that is unsafe. And it is also very much the case that any Canadian who is feeling unwell should stay home. This is the way that collectively we take care of ourselves and we
We'll go on to Ms. McPherson, the next question.
And I just want to be clear because I'm not 100% sure I got an answer in that response. So I'll just try one more time. Knowing that workers have a fundamental right to refuse unsafe work, can the minister confirm 100% that if workers refuse unsafe work, that they will be able to access the CERB? Or was the Minister of Finance incorrect when he spoke on March 27th?
The Honourable Minister.
Sorry there, I was struggling with my mute button, I apologize. So let me just be very clear. No Canadian worker at any time should feel obliged to go to work in unsafe conditions.
But then could they access the CERB?
In a time of coronavirus, that is even more the case. And the government, of course, should not penalize workers for doing the right thing and declining to go to work in unsafe conditions.
Thank you.
I want to remind the honorable members to place their questions through the chair to avoid back and forth, just to try to keep some order in the meeting. Ms. McPherson, please.
I'm sorry, Chair. I have another question on the protection for workers. So at the meatpacking plant, workers are calling for the plant to be shut down. In fact, we know that 85% of workers are afraid for their safety. So if the provincial government won't shut down the plant, will the federal government shut down unsafe plants through the Canadian Food Inspection Agency?
The Honourable Minister.
So on the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, let me just be very clear that my colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, has been in touch with provincial authorities. She has been in touch with the plant. The duties of the Food Inspection Agency, of course, are around ensuring that the food produced at the plant is safe. That is what inspectors are trained to do and what they are focused on. We are working closely with provincial authorities and with health authorities to ensure that
we'll go back to Ms. McPherson.
And this will be one of my final questions on the meatpacking plants in Alberta. Mr. Chair, can the Finance Minister please let us know if Cargill, a company that is owned by billionaires with business in Luxembourg, a known tax haven, can you let us know if they have received any federal funding this year for COVID-related support?
The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, c'est une période.
Mr. Speaker, this is a period that is difficult for Canadians. Our government is doing all it can to support them. More than 7 million Canadians have requested the CERB. The program is administered by the CRA and Shared Services Canada, and I would just like to say that I'm very proud of this work. The employees have worked day and night to implement these programs in a record amount of time. Minister Qualtrough, who is responsible for creating the eligibility criteria. Next question.
Did somebody call a point of order? I'm sorry. Now we'll continue to the Mr. Bragdon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question today is to the Prime Minister. Potato farmers in New Brunswick and across Canada are sitting on massive stores of potatoes that were destined for the restaurant industry, but due to the pandemic, now have no customers, and it's estimated that there's $300 million worth of potatoes still sitting in storage. What is the Prime Minister's plan for helping the farmers and our farmers offload these potatoes so that they are ready for the 2020 season?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question. I think all of us as Canadians are proud of the great potato farmers across the country, and we are aware that the coronavirus, by keeping us away from restaurants where we eat French fries, has had a profound effect on the market for potatoes. The program announced today by the Prime Minister and my colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, will be very helpful for potato farmers, including with the Surplus Food Program, which starts with a $50 million fund. And
we'll go back to Mr. Bragdon now.
Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you. With an estimated $300 million worth of potatoes in storage, the announced funding from the government today simply doesn't go far enough. In 2018, the New Brunswick potato industry lost over $20 million. It is estimated this year the financial loss will exceed $40 million. For many producers still recovering from the hit they took in 2018, another major loss is totally unacceptable. How does the Prime Minister plan to mitigate these shortfalls and allow farmers to continue to grow the food that we so desperately need?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the question. The honourable member spoke about farmers generally. The program today is $252 million that comes on top of the broad range of other programs which farmers, of course, have access to. On potato farmers in particular, I agree with the honourable member that this is a specific area of concern. I think all Canadians would like to see those potatoes not be wasted and be used, and that's why the $50 million for surplus food purchase is going to be so helpful.
Mr. Bragdon.
Mr. Speaker, farmers across all agricultural sectors are hurting during this pandemic. The $16 billion beef industry is expected to take a massive hit due to the closures and reduced production of the meat packing plants. Does the government truly believe that the announced $125 million that is shared between beef, poultry, and pork producers will be enough to support these multi-billion-dollar industries so they can put food on the tables of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I absolutely agree with the honourable member that our beef, pork, and poultry producers are absolutely essential for our country. And I am very pleased as a Canadian that we have the security that comes from being a country that produces not only enough food for ourselves, but enough food to feed the world. That is why the $125 million specifically to support our beef, pork, and poultry producers is going to be so helpful.
Mr. Bragdon.
Mr. Speaker, the government's announcement of $252 million for the agricultural sector falls well short of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture's request for immediate government relief for farmers. The president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, Mary Robinson, put it today something like this, that if the farmhouse is on fire, the government has offered the equivalent of a bucket of water. This will not go near far enough to help those who are in desperate situation. Does the government have a plan to offer more than just crumbs to keep the vital agricultural sector operating and providing food we so desperately need? When will this government finally make those who literally keep our land and grow our food a priority during this time of crisis?
The Honourable Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I don't know about the honourable member, but where I come from, $252 million is not just crumbs. And I know that Canadian farmers don't feel $252 million is nothing either. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight two other aspects of the essential support for farmers that we announced today. The $77 million to support food processors will not only be important for the processors, but that is helpful for the farmers who produce products who go to them. And the $250 million that we would like to add to the Canadian Dairy Commission's line of credit to raise it to $500 million will be very helpful for our essential dairy farmers.
And now we'll go to the next question by Ms. Wagenthal.
What do you think?
Ms. Wagenthal, is your mic on mute?
I apologize. There we go.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll stop my.
Would you spread $125 million?
A couple in my riding have had. Excuse me, point of order, Speaker. Is there someone speaking in the background?
I was just going to point that out. I didn't want to interrupt you. We'll stop the clock for a second. I just want to make sure that everybody is on mute. Someone had left their microphone on and it was interrupting Ms. Wagenthal. Ms. Wagenthal, please proceed.
Thank you. I'll start again. Chair, a couple in my riding have had to shut down their business and are on CERB. They were shocked when their 16-year-old son also qualified and is receiving $8,000 on the basis of part-time work throughout his school year. Why is the government handing out a windfall to teenagers who are living at home while denying university students and ignoring seniors on fixed incomes?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, any particular, sorry, pardon me, I was getting an echo there. Any individual who has lost work for COVID reasons is entitled and eligible for the CERB, regardless of their personal circumstances. If you made $5,000 in the past year, if you are resident in Canada, you qualify for the CERB. This is not a matter of differentiating between the personal circumstances of individuals, but acknowledging that many, many workers in different situations have lost their work or who've had their work significantly reduced because of COVID.
Ms. Wagenthal.
Clearly, high school students would not have the same needs as university students and our seniors who are suffering at this time. The government's own findings on banning handguns and assault firearms states that in all cases, the data does not conclusively demonstrate that these handgun or assault weapon bans have led to reductions in gun violence. So why is the Prime Minister so bent on penalizing law-abiding firearms owners when he should be focusing on funding our CBSA officers first with the resources that they need to seize smuggled firearms at our borders.
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I note with some interest that when we brought forward legislation in a budget in the last 2 years to increase the number of officers at the border, the member officer voted against it. So I'm very pleased to hear that she now supports that. But let us be very clear. The evidence is overwhelming that these weapons are designed to be used and have been used to kill innocent people. And countries that adopt sensible gun policies, places like New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom, have all recognized that there's no place for these weapons in a civil society. We promised Canadians that we would act on that concern. You know, there have been far too many people killed with these weapons, and even most recently, to honor and respect the terrible tragedy in Nova Scotia. The time is now to act, and we've acted.
We'll go back. Ms. Wagenthal.
Thank you. Last week, the Minister of Agriculture said, step by step, we're giving our farmers the tools they need to continue their work. On April 30th, the Canadian Federation of Agriculture called on the Minister to create a $2.6 billion fund to maintain food security in Canada. This morning, the Prime Minister announced $252 million hit and miss across the ag sector. With all due respect, this is a slap in the face to our farmers and agri-food sector. Instead of being here to speak to this announcement, the minister has chosen to do a press conference instead. And this certainly reveals how seriously the minister takes this virtual sitting and parliamentary accountability. If the deputy minister is going to answer the question in her place, I would ask, how does she see that it is right to be providing $9 billion to students and only crumbs to our agriculture sector?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me say that I do not, as has now been suggested by two members opposite, consider it in any way shameful that I should be answering questions about our support for the agricultural sector. Our government strongly supports our farmers, and I have to say, I personally very strongly support our farmers and have a strong personal connection to them. $252 million of support is real and meaningful, and it is directed exactly where it is needed. It is directed at food processors. It is directed at beef and pork producers. It is directed at the dairy sector. As to the question about students, let me just point out, farm kids are students too, and farm kids will be benefiting from the support for students, and I know that they and their parents and grandparents are very pleased that they too are supported.
La prochaine question va aller.
The next question is for Mr. Lehoux. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, meatpacking plants like Olymel in Quebec are extremely worried about how they will keep their doors open during this pandemic. Usually over the summer, plants like Olymel count on students to cover any supplementary hours or to cover for workers who are on vacation. Now, thanks to the CERB, many of these workers will be staying home and bringing in money. That's why the government has to adapt its current summer jobs program for students so that they can participate in the agriculture and agri-food industry. When will the government make these necessary changes? The Honourable Minister.
For his question, Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that we are doing our best efforts to not disincentivize work. We know that we need to support funding, we need to support students with income support, but we also need to create jobs. We are looking at ways that we can create additional jobs through Canada Summer Jobs, through the UN.
Nous avons un appel au règlement.
L'interprète n'interprète pas ce que la ministre dit.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I have it on English. That's correct?
Yeah, no, you're doing fine. I would just check, see how the technology is going. I think you've got that. Is everything working now? Can you hear me okay?
Oui, c'est okay.
Vous m'entendez? You hear me in French? Now, let's try that again, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So last week, as part of the measures announced around supporting our students, we announced the creation of 76,000 additional jobs, including jobs in the agriculture and processing sectors. Mr. Speaker, we know that we need to work directly with employers to ensure they have the people they need. This is exactly what we're doing through our youth employment and skills strategy, and that's what we'll continue to do. But we won't apologize for supporting students with income support.
Nous allons continuer avec Monsieur.
We're now going to continue with Mr. Lehoux. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, with respect to the CERB, I don't think my question was properly understood. It's true that the agri-food industry is of great concern to me, but the same applies to the tourism industry. There are many groups in my riding who have called me because they have to shutter their doors for the summer because they don't have students for the jobs that are available. The government should be answering to these tourism businesses. You are not helping them, Madam Minister, the Honourable Minister.
Employment opportunities. That's why we're creating an income support mechanism that allows them to work. And that's why we're going to continue to look at ways that we can support them through additional opportunities this summer. We know they want to work and they want to serve. Thank you.
Monsieur Lehoux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Mais j'espère qu'on aura des...
Thank you very much. I hope there will be concrete results. Now, pork and beef producers are suffering because of the shutdown. Processing plants have suspended their activities, and buyers are tearing up their contracts. Over the past 5 years, the government has said that programs to help these producers will be improved. They need these improved programs more than ever, but they have not been implemented. When will the government make these modifications? And when will the government make these improvements available to producers?
Ministre.
Merci, Monsieur.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have announced more than $77 million in support to agri-food processors to offer more stability to workers and to help them with all the costs associated with the pandemic. To help beef and pork producers, a national initiative has been launched with $125 million to help producers adjust. Mr. Lehoux. Thank you. I understand the minister's answer. These measures that were just announced have been very well received by the sector. Or rather, it's important to realize that much more was asked for. We need to support the agri-food sector and agribusinesses because food sovereignty is very important in this context. For many workers in the sector who have very clearly indicated that they have these needs, this is crucial. We need something to be done quickly before our country becomes entirely dependent on our neighbors. Has the government considered making these crucial modifications to the various agricultural programs that currently are in existence? The Honourable Minister. The interpreter would like to state that the sound of the Deputy Minister is quite echoey and is difficult to interpret properly. I would just like to state that Canada will never be dependent on our neighbors or other countries for what we eat because Canada is a country with a great deal of grains, pork, and beef production. We are an agricultural superpower. We should all be very proud of this. I would also like to raise another important aspect of our announcement today. It is a program to buy agricultural staples, $50 million, and I think Canadians will support this important initiative. Thank you. We will now move to the next question. Mr. Blaine Hawkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, how will the government's forced confiscation of law-abiding firearms owners' property prevent criminals from illegally acquiring firearms from the United States?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in response to that, I would simply remind the member that we have made it very clear that these weapons have no place in a civil society, and so we have prohibited military-style assault weapons that have been designed to be used to kill people and have been used to kill people. But I would also advise the member, we will bring forward legislation to deal more effectively at the border. We will make significant new investments in both border service officers and in policing. We'll bring forward new authorities and new offenses, new penalties to deal with people who smuggle weapons across the border. We're also bringing in new regulations for the storage of weapons to make it more difficult for people to steal these guns and to deal with people who purchase them legally and sell them illegally. There will be new offenses and penalties to ensure that they face the consequences.
We're now going back to Mr. Calkins.
The government previously has said that decisions like classifying firearms should be left to experts. The recent decision was purely political, flying in the face of evidence-based policy. A legal opinion that's already been obtained says that the bore of a 12-gauge shotgun with the choke removed is in excess of 20 millimeters. That means that every 12-gauge shotgun with a choke in it, with that choke removed, is now prohibited. That is the same firearm that Olympic trap shooters, Olympic skeet shooters, duck hunters, and geese hunters all across our country use on a very regular basis. So why did the government abandon evidence-based policy?
The Honourable Minister.
I'm pleased with the opportunity to correct the member. First of all, we have prohibited large bore weapons, a grenade launcher, for example, but the reference to the 10-gauge shotgun and the 12-gauge shotgun, I just simply remind the member that a 10-gauge shotgun is 19.69 millimeters in width, and a 12-gauge shotgun is 18.53 millimeters in width, both of them under the prohibition and not covered in the new prohibitions that the government introduced on Friday. I'm afraid his expert opinion is wrong.
Mr. Calkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The opinion is that of one of the most foremost experts that we have in Canada when it comes to firearms legislation. And if the entirety of the barrel length is considered, then the removal of the choke makes that barrel in excess of 20 millimeters. And I would appreciate the minister clarifying that for law-abiding firearms owners. There is no plan announced for the buyback program for this policy, and law-abiding firearms owners are not able currently to surrender their firearms. Given this, and the fact that law-abiding firearms owners aren't committing any gun violence, what was the government's immediate benefit of making this announcement on May 1st?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to clarify. Along with the prohibition that we have put in place, we have also, using the Order in Council, established an amnesty period. But the amnesty period is non-permissive grandfathering of those weapons. They cannot be used. They can't be taken to the range for shooting. They can't be used for hunting. They can't be sold, and they can't be transferred. And so we have put in strong measures to ensure that these weapons will not be available for use. And we've put in an amnesty period to allow us to bring forward the legislation and a budget in order to effect a buyback program which is responsible, safe, and effective in removing these weapons from society. And I look forward to the members' support for those measures as we go forward.
Mr. Calkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since January 1st, 2002, any law-abiding citizen with a firearms license issued to them by the Government of Canada would have been cross-referenced with a continuous eligibility check 6,695 times up until May 1st of this year. How many times was the most recent mass murder here in Canada checked against the criminal database since January of 2002?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, as the member's probably aware, there's a very extensive investigation currently being conducted into that individual and how he acquired his firearms. And it's not appropriate to discuss that. But I think what is appropriate is to recognize that these weapons, the weapons that this individual had available to them, are weapons that were not designed for target shooting or hunting purposes or any sporting purposes. They were designed for soldiers to kill soldiers. And in the hands of someone who is intent on mass murder, they represent an unacceptable and deadly risk to Canadians, and that's why we have prohibited them. I'd also remind them that other countries that adopt sensible gun control laws, such as New Zealand, Australia, and the United Kingdom, have also implemented very similar bans.
Now we go to the Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith, Mr. Manley.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to start by giving my condolences to the crew that died from the HMCS Fredericton.
We effectively just punched back.
You can hear me? Sorry. Somebody interrupt?
Someone turn. Okay. No, I'm sorry that somebody still had their mic on. Please go ahead, Mr. Manley.
Yeah, in particular to the family of Captain Kevin Hagen. He was a constituent from Nanaimo Ladysmith originally. Madam Speaker, other countries are strongly recommending that all citizens wear masks wherever people gather indoors, in schools, on public transit, and in stores. Taiwan has effectively stopped the spread of the coronavirus by supplying people with masks and installing dispensers of hand sanitizer throughout public spaces. They do not do a lot of testing or contact tracing. They do not have a lockdown. They started in the top 10 countries affected by COVID-19, and today they are at number 119. Will Canada follow Taiwan's example so we can lift the lockdown safely and get Canadians back to work?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. There's no doubt about it that masks can play a role in a layered approach to protecting Canadians' health and safety. But as he's mentioned, there are many other aspects to ensuring that Canadians are safe no matter where they go. For example, it is of utmost importance that Canadians can practice social distancing, and that can provide the most protection, in fact, when you're out in public or you're in another place where there are other people. Wearing a non-medical mask can add a layer of protection, and certainly Dr. Tam has said that when physical distancing is not an option, Canadians should consider wearing a mask.
Mr. Manley?
All right, thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to the Martha and her team that are doing a fundraiser for the SPCA by making masks for citizens in my riding. Madam Speaker, many people are falling through the cracks in the pandemic relief plan, including seniors who face an increase in the cost of living and a loss of retirement investment income. Will the government make the CERB a universal benefit to ensure that all Canadians who need help get help? And if not, will the government increase old age security and allow seniors to withdraw funds from their RRSP without penalty so that they can pay their bills?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the question. We do recognize that OAS and GIS are very important parts of retirement income of Canadians, particularly lower income seniors. We've already introduced measures to help seniors like the GST credit supplement. The CERB is there for working seniors that have lost income as a result of COVID-19. We've also reduced the mandatory retirement of withdrawals by 25%. I'll stop.
I'm sorry, Mr. Green, you had your mic on, but it's fine. It's muted again. Please go ahead, Minister.
That's great. Thank you. And we've also spent millions, 100 million $500 million in terms of supporting organizations that are helping assist vulnerable Canadians, including seniors.
We are going back to Mr. Manley.
I do recognize there's more to be done. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Manley. Yeah.
Many small businesses do not meet the eligibility requirements for the various relief programs on offer, particularly sole proprietorships. I've got a long list of businesses in my riding that are missing out. At the same time, we have large companies in this country that use tax havens and loopholes to avoid paying their fair share of public services. Will the government ensure that the needs of small businesses are met and withhold relief from corporations that use tax havens to avoid paying taxes in Canada?
I want to thank the member for the question.
The Honourable Minister. Okay.
Thank you. I want to thank the Honourable member for that question. And small businesses are indeed incredibly important to all of our communities across the country. And that is why we've implemented many measures to help them weather through this difficult period in COVID-19. So whether it is to help them with a small business loan, or to help with wage subsidy or commercial rent assistance, or just lowering the cost by deferring GST or HST or customs duties, many measures are put forward so that we can help our small businesses through this very difficult time. Thank you.
The Honourable Member, Mr. Manley, very short question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As we navigate this pandemic crisis, there's another major crisis we are in the middle of, the climate emergency. Will this government develop its economic recovery plan with the pandemic, with the climate emergency at the forefront of its planning?
The Honourable Minister, 15 seconds.
Thank you for the question. Certainly, the focus of the government at the present time is on combating the virus and on steps taken to start to relax some of the measures that have been taken. As we look forward, of course, we need to learn from the experiences of this crisis, as well as look forward to some of the looming crises on the horizon. Certainly, climate change is one of those, and we certainly intend to reflect on resilience for the economy as we move forward.
Now we go to Ms. Ashton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Minister of Indigenous Affairs. First Nations across northern Manitoba and many across the country have been doing everything possible to keep COVID-19 out of their communities. Many here have implemented strict lockdowns or travel restrictions. But the federal government has done virtually nothing to deal with the chronic issues that have made them vulnerable in the first place, such as overcrowded housing and the lack of hospitals. We have to be very concerned about a possible second deadly wave of COVID-19. So what is your government doing to support communities in the face of that? Why isn't the government supporting the call for a ventilation center in Barons River, a hospital in Cross Lake, a hospital in the Island Lake region? If the government couldn't act in time for this first wave of the pandemic, can it at least act in time for a potential second wave?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, indeed, Madam Speaker, one of the reflections we have to have coming out of this global pandemic is that we don't want to go into the next one with the same social determinants of health that have made Indigenous communities more vulnerable and more susceptible to contracting and then spreading COVID-19. A lot of the historic housing funds that we have mobilized in order to address overcrowding in particular are cold comfort to those communities that are still finding themselves in overcrowded situations. So as we look at the staged approach to the epidemic and the onset of COVID-19, there are many measures that Indigenous Services Canada and as a whole of government we will deploy, including surge capacity, increased PPE and nurses and doctors. Obviously, we are looking for a medical solution to a medical problem, and that is what we will spare no expense or resources to address as Indigenous communities continue to face the looming threat of COVID-19 or second waves as people start or communities start to relax some of the procedures and confinement procedures.
Ms. Ashton?
Again, Madam Chair, to the Minister of Indigenous Services, many of us across Northern Canada are deeply concerned by the outbreak taking place in Northern Saskatchewan, centered in La Loche. The outbreak started from a worker who came back from a work camp in Fort McMurray. These camps are making workers sick, and they are proving deadly for First Nations and Northern communities. These work camps put public health at risk during a pandemic. Your government says it's committed to doing everything it can to keep First Nations safe, and yet nothing has been done to support calls for pandemic shutdowns. Will you support First Nations calling for shutdowns during this pandemic to save lives now?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, indeed, Madam Speaker, the situation in La Loche is of very, very pressing concern. Members won't be surprised to know that that number will only increase as the days goes on. And as we implement aggressive testing and contact tracing, we are working with surrounding First Nations communities. We are working with the Métis and Dene communities in La Loche to ensure that the medical precautions are being put into place. Strict social distancing is being put into an effect, but this is a situation that is very much evolving minute by minute, and it is something that we have deployed additional resources along with the Meadow Lake and the Intertribal Health Authority, and to ensure that there is a health response to a health problem. Clearly, we need coordination
all respect,
with the
Mr. Minister,
to ensure that we have a seamless approach.
My question referred to La Loche, but this is a broader issue. There are many work camps, including here in our north, that people are extremely concerned about. First Nations are extremely concerned about. Will your government step in to support their calls for temporary shutdowns at this time?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, one of the things we see as we see the evolving dynamic and the potential spreads, particularly the fear of clusters as communities, provinces, territories may choose to relax certain measures, is the need to have a more targeted approach as to how the economy reacts and deals with it, particularly in northern and vulnerable communities. So this is something that we will need to have a seamless approach with both the Minister of Natural Resources, but also our provincial counterparts to make sure that that we aren't taking hasty measures in order to reopen the economy while trying to protect, and this is our most important goal, protect Indigenous communities from getting exposed and spreading COVID-19.
Ms. Ashton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Minister of Fisheries. Hundreds of fishers and their families here in Manitoba who work with the Freshwater Fish Marketing Corporation are desperately calling for emergency support. Many are calling on the federal government to also work with them and the FFMC to redirect their product to domestic markets and communities here at home to address the growing food insecurity people are facing. When will your government announce support for inland fishers, including here in Manitoba? And will you work to ensure that their product, healthy fish, can be provided here at home for people who need it?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you.
Very briefly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. Madam Chair, we know that COVID-19 is having extreme impacts on Northern First Nations communities, especially with regards to fisheries in areas that rely on it for not only their livelihood, but also for their cultural importance. Indigenous harvesters are able to access the Aboriginal financial institutions that we've put in at $306 million for support for Indigenous and small and medium-sized businesses. The funding allows for short-term interest-free loans as well as for non-repayable contributions. We're also announced earlier that the Northern Economic Development Agency has made available $15 million in non-repayable support available for businesses. We know that there's more that needs to be done to support our First Nations communities as well as our harvesters. We're doing everything we can and we will continue to make sure that we address those needs.
I have to interrupt you now. We'll now move on to Ms. de Bellefeuille. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm not going to talk about tax fraudsters. I'm not going to talk about the millions of dollars that have been used to track these fraudsters. This is what I want to ask the minister. Why is she not using this current context and looking to countries that are ending these kind of tax avoidance schemes in tax havens? It may be legal, but it's immoral, especially given the current context. Can she please explain to me why she's not showing leadership and convincing her cabinet to end these legal tax avoidance measures? Companies are using this to avoid paying taxes. They're putting money in tax havens. The minister. Madam Chair, as soon as we came to office in 2015, we made tax fraudsters a priority. We made an historic investment of $1 billion into this. We also gave the CRA the resources it needs to do its work, and we're already seeing results. I established an expert advisory council. They give us advice. We've also tightened up voluntary disclosure rules. We have agreements with countries to exchange information. We audit jurisdictions. We're working with the OECD. And currently, we have more than 50 criminal investigations related to tax avoidance. Thank you. We need to go back to Ms. de Bellefeuille. Madam Chairman, does she see that she is being recorded and that she's not answering my question? I'm talking about companies that use legal means to avoid paying taxes by putting their money in tax havens. Now, I understand why she doesn't want to answer my question, so I'll ask another one. Can she tell me how many companies are legally using tax avoidance measures in tax havens, and how much money in taxes does that mean we're losing through these legal mechanisms? How much money is the government losing through this that it could invest in post-COVID recovery? The minister. Madam Chair, I understand that my colleague is impatient about these things, but what she needs to understand that this is a very complex file, and under the previous Conservative government, it was not a priority. Now, with respect to tax avoidance, Madam Chair, our government has done twice as many audits in 3 years as were done in 10 years under the Conservatives. And we have 10 ongoing investigations now into these kinds of schemes. Ms. de Bellefeuille, this isn't impatience, Madam Chair. This is a lack of understanding when it comes to this government not taking the steps it needs to do to end these legal but immoral schemes. My next question is for the Minister of Finance. There is a federation for recovery in agriculture in Quebec that has been trying to contact this government about the fact that there are some workers who are not eligible for emergency benefits in the agricultural sector. This includes the $40,000 loan that's available. Will Minister Morneau respond to the concerns of producers who want access to these $40,000 loans? The Minister. I hope that those seconds won't be counted to my time. Thank you. We know that it's very important that our emergency benefits are there for people who need them. That's why, one moment, please, Minister. There's a point of order.
Mr. Kirk? Oh. Mr. Kirk, you have a point of order? You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, the translation is at the same volume as the minister.
Well, you have to put yourself in English. Or rather, the minister has to put himself in French.
Je m'excuse, c'était moi.
I apologize, it was my fault. So what I wanted to say was that we know that it's very important that emergency benefits are available to those who need them. And that's why we are constantly reviewing these challenges. I will be looking at any correspondence that I receive, and if I need to provide a response, I will be communicating about that.
Yeah, this question is for the tourism minister. The tourism industry was one of the first and it's been one of the hardest hit industries during this crisis. And yet, despite the Prime Minister announcing over 3 weeks ago now that he planned to bring forward a tourism-specific aid package to help the businesses who employ millions of unemployed Canadians who work in tourism, there's still been nothing from this government. So when will the government finally act to provide help to this nearly crippled industry?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, we know that the tourism sector has been deeply impacted. I had the chance to talk to many of the leaders in the sector, and clearly there's a lot of anxiety. And we had also the chance to work with all the G20 ministers of tourism all together. And we know we have to
now go back to Mr. Richards.
So I didn't really get much of an answer there. I hear a lot about talking, not much on action. And frankly, you know, we're talking about an industry where communities like the ones I represent in Banff and Canmore that are tourism-based economies, they have unemployment rates of 85% or higher. They also don't qualify for a lot of the programs because they're seasonal businesses. And they make most or all of their revenues for the year from May to October. So they're at risk of losing an entire season. So a couple of very specific questions. Will the government consider making changes to the programs to make sure that seasonal businesses can get help? And what does the government plan to do to help the tourism industry recover post-pandemic?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you. So obviously, the tourism sector has access to many measures, including the CEBA account, the $40,000 account. They have access also to the wage subsidy. They have access to rent relief. And they will be having access also to funding through the regional development agencies. I will be coming up with the details soon. And of course, in my colleagues' riding of Banff, which is a fantastic place and a tourism gem, they will have access to the support through WD, Western Economic Diversification. So if there are particular cases he would like to raise with me, I would be more than happy to talk to him to see how we can help on the ground the tourism operators.
Mr. Richards.
So clearly the tourism minister hasn't been listening. She says she's talking to the industry. She's not hearing their concerns. What she just said does not address many of the concerns they have about being seasonal industries. It doesn't address anything about their concerns about the hard economic recovery they'll have post-pandemic. So let's try another minister and see if we can get some answers. Because another industry that's very hard hit in my province and in my riding is the oil and gas industry. And it's another industry where the Prime Minister has promised help, but there hasn't been anything. It's clearly a pattern here. And the only so-called assistance that there's been to help hurting Albertans in the oil patch has been measures to speed up the death of the industry that they work in. So will the Liberal government ever show any concern for Albertans? Will they bring forward a plan to preserve Canadian jobs? And will they put forward a plan to ensure the use of Canadian oil before oil coming in from places like Saudi Arabia?
The Honourable Minister.
In fact, Mr. Speaker, the federal government's taken several steps in recent weeks that will meaningfully support workers and communities who depend on this industry. We've got the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which covers 75% of an employee's wages for the employer. We've got more liquidity for oil and gas companies through new loans of $15 to $60 billion from the Business Development Bank of Canada. We continue to step forward in our response to the impacts of COVID-19 on my province here in Newfoundland and Labrador, on Alberta and Saskatchewan, three provinces that are being hit by two crises at the same time, a crisis of demand for oil and gas on the world markets, and of course, a crisis here of public health with COVID-19.
Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, a lot of these things that we're hearing about aren't going to actually help the industry to recover. What we need to see is the government give the industry and the private sector the opportunity to succeed. Maybe what they could do is consider expediting the approval of billions of dollars of private sector projects that would put thousands and thousands of Canadians back to work. Will the government consider looking at ways that we can expedite projects? Will they look at ways that we can encourage the use of Canadian oil before that of oil coming in from places like Saudi Arabia?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been working with our provincial partners. We have been working with businesses in the oil and gas industry of all sizes, and we've been working with labor, concentrating on workers and concentrating on the companies that support those jobs to make sure that they remain whole. So those jobs will be there for those workers. We're particularly proud of our Orphan Wells program that has been launched now by the Alberta government in conjunction with us. It was launched last week, and I'm pleased to inform this House that the uptick on applications for that program is significantly higher than even we expected.
And that's all the questions we have for today. That's all the time we have. I want to thank all the members for taking part. The committee stands adjourned until tomorrow at noon. Le comité est ajourné jusqu'à...
The committee stands adjourned until tomorrow at noon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.